What's up everyone, this is part 2 of the photo sharing app UI series where we take this Figma design that we created in one of the previous videos and we build an app out of it. So in this video we'll be building out the albums page where we'll be creating reusable components for the cards that we see here, for the avatar section, and also for this little separator. And what's great is that in some of your later projects, you can use these components by just copy pasting them into your project. And it's gonna speed up our development process a lot. So yeah, let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Matt. This is Made with Matt. And on this channel, we build React Native apps. My goal is to help you learn by creating simple projects and following along. So let's get into it. So if this is the first video you're watching from this series, check the description down below to get this Figma file and also the GitHub repository where you'll find the starter template. So you could clone this and then go to the first video, so part 1, to get started with all the setup. But if you're here, you've probably already done that. So open up your VS Code project. So I'll just get that opened up here and open up your source components, album.js. So this is where we're going to be doing most of the work today to get this page created. All right, so I'm going to open up the project. So expo start, that's going to get the server running. Now, once again, if you have your phone handy, iOS or Android, you could scan your QR code and it should work. If it doesn't, try playing around with all of these and check your connection for your phone. But I'm going to close this and I'm going to type in I to get it open on my simulator. And like I said in the previous video, if you do want to get it working on the simulator, there are a couple other steps. I'll be making a video about that pretty soon. But in the meantime, just check the documentation for Expo and React Native to get that set up. Awesome, so I've got the project running. This is what we finished with last time. If you click here, you get to the shared albums page. So since we're going to be focusing on this page today, what we could start with is the actual container for the page. So we know that this needs to be scrollable, in which case we'll create a scroll view. So I'm gonna go remove all of this, remove this style as well, and replace this with just an empty component. And then I'll pass in a scroll view here. So scroll view, and it auto imports it from React Native gesture handler, which we don't want. We want it from React Native. So just be aware that sometimes it does that. So we'll get a scroll view, and then inside of it, we'll have a view. We'll give this a style, and this one's going to be styles dot album container. And first thing we could do now is actually go set up the styles. So under the albums component, say const styles is equal to style sheet, and we're going to need to import it. We can auto import it like that from React Native. So dot create, and in here we'll say album container. Now we'll just give it a quick style of margin bottom, and we could say 32. Now another even better way of doing this. So we could say margin bottom 32 and put in a number, but then sometimes it gets really ugly. Since we created a themes file, and this was already in the starter code, what we could do is we could say theme dot spacing and then dot large. That way we get 32 and we don't have necessarily hard-coded values. So we'll do that. So it's import theme from 2 dots to go up a directory, and we'll go to assets, themes, and index. Now we have our theme, so we can type it in here, theme dot, and it's already gonna tell us, give us suggestions as to what we could use. So spacing dot large. And this is going to be the exact same thing that we had before with 32. Now this is going to be the container for all the albums, so all of these. So what we need to do now is get all the data, so get all the contents that we need to output on this screen, and then we could map over them one by one and then render them. So to do that, we're going to need to import this data. So import, and we could go check what it's called. So I think it's albumPage. So albumPage like that from, and now we're going to need to go to assets, data, and then albumPage. And if we open that up quickly to check it out, it has all the images, which are the background images, all the avatars, and then all the basically information we need to output this. So I'm going to close that. So now that we have that, we could go ahead and map over them. So if you've never seen a map, just follow along. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Basically what it does is it's kind of like a for loop. It goes through each element of the album page array one by one. And then in this function here, we could pass in the item. So that's the item that we just picked. And then we have a function which renders something. So in our case, we'll get it to render a view. And let's just close it off here, view. And then inside, let's just have a text with the item.title for now. So let's save that and see if it renders. Cool. So now we could see that we have dogs, travel, hiking. Basically, they all rendered here and it's in a scroll view, so we're able to scroll. But we do see that we have a warning. So each child in a list should have a unique key prop. So what that is in here, this is the child of the list, and each child should have a key. So let's say key is equal to something here. Now, what this should be is something unique. And the reason for this is that React Native gets confused if you have two child elements with the same key. So we could say comma here, index. And what that's going to do is, thanks to the map function, it's automatically going to put the index being the index in the array. So now if we put in index here and we save it, we should see that warning go away. Since we've spoken a lot about reusable components, let's go ahead and make one right now. So our first reusable component. So in source components, create a new file called card.js. And in here, let's just create it quickly. So card, and what we'll return is going to be a view for now with a text saying, I am a card. Okay. So now in albums.js, we're going to import card from card. And now rather than printing out a text here, we could actually delete that and place the card. So if you save that, it says can't find variable view. That's my bad. We need to import that from React Native, import view, and we also need a text from React Native. There it is. And we could save that. Now we could see I am a card appear a bunch of times. Now in this card, we want to render everything that's inside of item. So what we could do is we could pass item as a prop. So if you've ever worked with React or React Native and seen what props are, basically it's just you're passing something into the other component. So now jumping into the other component, we need to accept that prop. So kind of grab it and receive it from albums where it's passing it in. So we could just say item like that, and now we've received it. So in the text here, if we want to kind of do the example we had before, we could say item.title. Let's save that. We'll get an error for now. And let's save this as well. And there you go. Now we have all the titles. So we could go jump into card and start building out the card component. So this component here. So we're looking at just one of these. We know that we want an image for the background and then some text here, and then finally some avatars here. So we'll get started with the background and the text, and afterwards we'll create the reusable avatars component. So let's jump into it. So we could go ahead, delete this text, and actually even delete this view since we'll want an image background. So we'll type in image background and auto import it from React Native. And what that does now is we could pass in an image as the background. So to pass in the image, we need source. So the source is going to be item.background. And we could also pass in a style. So we'll say styles.image background. Now we could also go create the styles variable. So from the style sheet, make sure to import it from React Native .create. And in here, we'll put in all our styles. For now, I'll keep it blank until we finish up the actual coding part of it. But at least it'll be easier to autocomplete that word and it won't throw any errors. But anyways, inside the image background, since we want it to be clickable, since once you click on it, it goes to the next page, as we could see in our prototype. So to do that, we need to make the entire component here a button. So you click it, boom, goes to the next page. So to do that, let's just wrap everything in a pressable. And for now, on click, we won't actually do anything. But inside pressable, we'll create another view, and this view is going to have a style. So this is going to be styles.image content container. And then in here, we'll have a view to hold the text. So we'll have text. This is going to be the title, so item.title, and another text, which is going to have the item.user. But if we go back to the prototype here, we can see that it says created by and then user. So what we could do is instead of just saying item.user, let's delete that and write two backticks. So the backticks are just on the left of the 1 on your keyboard. Now what we could say is created by, so we could pass in a string. And what's cool is if you $ and open close curly braces, we can now inject some JavaScript into this string by saying, so now we could pass in the same thing that we had before, item.user, and now it's going to print out created by item.user. So let's add some styles. So style, styles.image title. And let's add some here too, styles.image subtitle. Cool. And we should be good to get started. We'll add just another view here, and we'll add a comment saying avatars go here. Awesome. So let's save that, and we'll see that there's no style to it whatsoever yet. And we're getting an error, but that's all right. It'll be fixed once we fix up the styling. So let's go ahead, get started with some styles. So I'm holding down the Option key as I click all these styles to copy them all at the same time. You can right click it, copy, and then when you paste it, you should see all of them. Now, once again, holding down Option key, and I'm on Mac, I'm not sure what it is on PC, and setting it all up. Perfect. So let's get started with the image background. So we'll give it a resize mode of cover, overflow of hidden, so that if the image somehow ends up too big, it doesn't mess anything up. Now let's give it a height. So for the height, we have some heights in our theme file. So here at the bottom, image height. So we can use this to create our height and not have to hard code it. So we could say theme, and we just need to make sure to import it. So sometimes when you start typing in VS Code, it auto imports it for you, which is nice. So theme.image height, and this one's going to be small. Now we could also give it some margin on the top. So we'll go theme.spacing, medium. We'll give some margin horizontal of theme.spacing.medium as well. Some padding horizontal. Same thing, theme.spacing.medium. And finally, we could save it for now just to check it out, see what it looks like. So already looking pretty good. I'll look into this warning just after this to fix it. But yeah, already looking pretty good with all the images. Maybe we could add some border radius. And in the theme, we actually have some border radius here as well. So we'll give it medium. So theme.borderRadius.medium. And by the way, writing theme.whatever is the exact same as saying like border radius of 10. So like this is the exact same thing as saying this. If we save that or save that, we'll see the same thing. Now the last thing we'll want is justify content center to just place it in the middle there. Now we can move down to the image content container. So for this one, actually, let's leave it blank for now because we're not going to see anything even if we change it. We'll start editing this one when we plug in the avatars after. So let's go down to image title. So that's this title here. Now in theme, we already have some text variants set up. So for example, H1, it passes in a font family of Nunito Bold and a font size of 24. So rather than typing that out manually, we could just go ... theme.textVariants.h1. And now that basically goes and take whatever's in here and outputs it here. So this and this is the exact same thing. Now we'll also want to give it a color. So our color of white, so colors.white. Save that, already starting to look a lot better. Now let's do the similar thing for image subtitle. So instead of H1, we'll give it a body 2, which is this here. So Nunito regular and font size of 16. So let's go ahead and do that. So theme.textVariants.body2 and give it a color of theme.colors.white. Save that, and it already looks much better and a lot closer to what we have here. Now we can scroll, and we could also click it, but it won't do anything just yet. All right, awesome. So we've got all of this set up. Now we'll go add the little avatars that we see there. Before we do that, let's actually go in here where avatars should be. And let's console log the avatars. So this is going to be item.avatars. So let's open up our console and you should see all the avatar items. So we can see that it's an array which has objects. So each object is an avatar that has an ID and an image. And the images are coming from over here. So images, avatar images, all of these, which are also in the setup code on GitHub. So for the sake of reusable components, let's create a new component here called avatars.js. And let's just create an empty component with an avatar. Cool. For now, let's just have a view which has a text saying I'm an avatar. Could save that, and now in card we could say avatars, and it should automatically import it for you. If it doesn't, just go ahead and import it. Save that, and we should see our avatar show up. Now we're getting an error, can't find variable view. That's because we need to import it from React Native. So view, text, and just because we're already here, I'll say style sheet as well. Save that. There we go. So now we see I'm an avatar. I'm an avatar. I'm going to close this warning for now. But yeah, avatar, avatar, avatar. Cool. So I'll go ahead, create a styles item here. So style sheet, style sheet dot create, and just leave it empty for now. But what we know that we'll need is are the actual avatars themselves. So jumping back to card, in avatars here, we could say avatars is equal to item.avatars. Now what this is similar to how we created the card and passed down the item, now we're creating the avatar and passing in an avatar prop, which is going to have all the avatars. So if you save that, and we go to avatars here, now we kind of need to catch it. So to do that, we could say avatars. And now in here, similar to what we did in card, where we map over, in album, where we map over all the data, we could do something similar in here, where we say avatars dot map, and then in here we pass in the item. And then we can render a component. So I'll just do it like that for now. And here we know that, so let's just go back to the design to see what we want to do. So each item is going to be it's going to be like this circular image with a border radius. And then we also want each image to kind of stack on top of each other. With the furthest right image keeping a distance of 16 from the right. So let's go ahead and implement that. So we know that we want the background to be an image. And since we're not going to write any text or anything on the image, we don't need it to be an image background. We could just say image. Now, we could go ahead and give it a source, which is going to be item.image, and now a style. And now this is where it's going to get interesting. So we're going to pass in an array for the style, just so that we could give it more than one styles. So let's give it the base style of avatar style. Now let's go create that. So avatar style is going to be, so resize mode, cover, so that fits properly in the area we give it. Then we're going to give it a width of theme. So make sure it imports theme here. If it doesn't, just import it yourself at the top here. So theme.image height. This one's going to be extra small. Height, same thing. Theme.image height. Extra small. We'll want a border radius on it. So border radius is going to be theme.image height extra small and divided by 2. That way we get the nice rounded shape. So we could see them showing up here. And we see each child in a list should have a unique key prop, which we've seen before. So to fix that, really simple, pass in the index in the map. And then in here, key is equal to index. We save that, now it goes away. So we see them show up here. We'll fix all the styling of like where it's actually placed afterwards, once we get the avatar style down. The last thing we need to give it is a border. So let's give it a border width. So theme actually, let me skip this for now and just give it 1, and then border color, and this is going to be our theme colors dot white. Save that, and we get that nice little white border that we are looking for. And yeah, so rather than giving border width, my bad, we could just do theme dot border radius dot extra small, which is going to be the same thing, border radius of 1. And now we could go delete this text. We don't need it. Save that, and it's going to start looking good. Now let's jump back to card.js to get some styling going for the avatars to make them show up on the right where they should be. So earlier we had this image content container that we decided to leave empty. So this is what we're going to go play around with right now. So let's give it a flex direction of row. Now that's going to kind of make everything a bit nicer, at least it doesn't stack on top of each other. Now we'll align items in the center. So I'm just going to save it every time I change something so you can see what's going on. So that brings everything to the center, which is cool. And then justify content space between. Now what that does is it's going to push everything to the extremities. And since we added some padding in here, which we could find right here, it's not going to push it all the way to the end, which is pretty cool. So now we have the styling done for the actual card, but we're going to need to fix up the avatar style to make it kind of stack one on top of the other. So to do that, we're going to need to make use of the Z index. So if you come from a web development background, you've seen what the Z index is. It's basically like if something has a higher Z index than the other, it's going to appear on top of it and cover it. So it's pretty simple to get started with it. It's just Z index. And we could say that the Z index is going to be equal to the actual index of the avatar. So we're going to be starting the map at the avatar with the avatar at index 0. And then the index is going to be 1, 2, 3, so on, depending how many avatars we have. And since we want the avatars with a higher number, which means they're further down the list, to appear on top of the ones earlier in the list, by saying Z index is equal to the actual index, it's going to do exactly that. So we could save that and see what happens, and we should see nothing actually happens yet. And that's because we could give it a position of absolute. And now we see them appear all the way down there. So we'll go ahead and delete that for now. Just leave the Z index, give it a margin left of index times 16. And that's because if we go look at the design, we want each one to be a distance of 16 from the previous. And if we save that, we'll see that it's starting to look a bit better. It's diagonal, but now we need them to kind of all be aligned. So to do that, we could say if the index is not equal to avatars dot length minus 1. So if this is if this isn't the last item, we'll give it a position of absolute. Now we save that, and there we go. It all lines up perfectly. So this looks really great. If we go back and look at the design, it looks exactly the same. Here, let's kind of close this off. It looks exactly the same. The only thing we're missing is this button up here, but we'll be doing that in a later video. And this separator. So we could actually go create this separator right away. So go back to albums.js, and in the mapping function here, this is where we'll want to do it. So we could add a comment here. So we only want to add separator if the index is 1, right? Because 0, 1, and then we want that separator. Now, that's what we have with this design. Maybe it would change for other designs, so there's probably better ways of doing this, but for the sake of making it simple for this tutorial, we'll leave it like that. So now we'll say index is equal to 1, and then here we'll want some sort of component. Now here we could create a reusable component so that if you have other projects or whatnot, you could throw it in. So let's just leave it like this for now, or comment it out, and let's go create a new component. So under components, new file, we'll call this one separator.js. Now, same thing, just set up a blank component here, and we could go give it a view and a style. So let me just go import that. So import view style sheet from React Native. And let's create the style sheet. So styles is equal to style sheet dot create. Let's go up here. So style is going to be equal to styles dot separator. And now this separator style is going to be super simple. We'll give it a top margin. So margin top is going to be theme. So once again, import the theme if it doesn't do it automatically. Dot spacing dot medium. Margin horizontal is going to be theme dot spacing dot medium. The height is going to be a height of 1, which we could also say theme dot this one was border width, I believe. You know what, let's just give it 1 for now. And then background color, theme dot colors, and we'll give this one a color of gray. So you could save this component. Now in albums here, let's uncomment the line we had started writing. So if the index is equal to 1, we'll want the separator component. It should auto suggest it for you. So just click enter to actually get it in here. If not, import it. And we're getting some red because we need to say and here. And now we should see that work, just that I think this needs to be wrapped in this kind of comment for it to not, oh, no, that's not it. Oh, right. The problem is because, sorry about that. So just delete that and move it up under the card. So let's save that. And there we go. Now we see our separator appear. Now the last thing we'll want to do is when we press on any of these, we want it to go to the next page. So if we look at the prototype, when we click on any of them, it should go to the next page. And it's not done in the prototype, but basically if we click dogs, it should show the picture of dogs with the dogs title. If we click architecture, it should show the same picture and so on. So to do that, we're going to need to pass in the navigation to the card component. So let's go ahead and say navigation is equal to navigation. So navigation is by default already passed into albums because if we go to our navigation index, albums is a screen on the stack navigator. So by default, it passes it in already. But since card is not, we'll need to pass it in manually. So that's why we say navigation here and we pass it in as a prop. So we could save that and then we could go to card.js. And now we'll just need to go grab it, similar to how we grabbed item. So that's perfect. And then now on press, we could say an anonymous function here, navigation.navigate. And we just need to say the page we want to go to, so shared album. So if we click that, now we get the shared album. Click that, same thing. But since we want to be rendering the actual data itself from the item we clicked on, what we could do, which is pretty cool, is pass in some parameters. So we could say album item. Now let's save that and it should do the exact same thing. So let's go to shared album. And in here, what we could do is we could go and grab the parameters. So if you look in the React navigation documentation, what they say is when you pass something as a parameter, you will need to grab the route prop, and then you could say const album, which is what we called our parameter here. Const album is equal to route.params. So now we're just going to double check that it works. So let's console log album, save that, open up our console, clear it, and let's click dogs. We see that we get, so title, dogs, user, you. Let's clear the console again. I'm doing Command K to clear it. Say night sky, perfect, night sky, and let's try one more. Let's say cars. Awesome. So we've got that working. In the next video, we'll go ahead, finish that shared album page. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you to understand a bit more about reusable components and their benefits and how to use them. And I'll see you in the next video where we're creating this shared album page.